Chiefs go out to Las Vegas, put their money on the line, and come up a winner. That's a gamble that they needed to have. We're going to break it all down live post-game with Matt Derrick of ChiefsDigest.com. Welcome to Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Friends and neighbors, whether you're in the desert, here in the high country, or in Kansas City, we're brought to you today by Locked On Jobs to find the qualified candidates that you want faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. This was a game the Chiefs had to have. They get it done. Had to get their motor started. We're going to talk about the ins and outs, who stood out and who still has a ways to go. No one came out clean in this ball game, but Matt Derrick's here with us from ChiefsDigest.com, our Chiefs Inside, to give you the inside scoop. We're going to get to it all. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting, NFL33.com, and RGR Football, with my partner, Chris Clark of Chiefs Corner. We're going to give you all of it today live post-game, as you can get us 5 days a week. Pre-recorded most of the time, but you can get in it there. Make sure you like, sub, hit the bell here on YouTube, as well as hitting Spotify, Apple, and all the audio platforms, because we're free every day, everywhere for you. You everydayers know that, and we appreciate you being here. Hit the text line at 816-357-8781 to get a little bit more. This game came down. I do believe I had the closest prediction. The Chiefs matched my output. Raiders just got a couple extra points there. This went down a lot of how we wanted it to, but not quite in the order we wanted it to, Matt. It looks like it was, we're going to rest some of our beat-up wide receivers. We don't need everybody against this game, and oh, crap, they're going to punch us in the face in the first half. We're going to have to come back from it. I see that as a huge plus for battling back in this ball game. How did you take this game for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was a big-time battle back. I mean, you dig yourself a 14-0 hole, and the way that the Raiders did it, I mean, they just dominated the early portion of this game. Really, the first 5 drives, offensively and defensively, they were just shoving the ball down the Chiefs' throat on the ground. It looked like this was just doom and gloom. And I mean, it was big when the Raiders decided to kick the field goal, which I found the Raiders, I'm getting the points there, but they miss a chip shot field goal, get 0 points completely. You started to feel a little bit of momentum. Maybe there was a little bit of a, deep breath of fresh air for the Chiefs. But when you get to a situation there where, hey, the Raiders could have had an opportunity to go up 21-0, and then that would have been the knockout blow to me. But instead, Chiefs find themselves down 14-0. They're able to fight back to make it, even at the half. And the second half was all Kansas City. Raiders only had 5 first downs, I think, in the second half. Never really got anything started offensively. The Chiefs were able to at least be good in this, the second half. They weren't as consistent as I know they would like to be, but they had a couple of scoring drives, got things done, 17 points in the second half, which compared to the second half output of late is monstrous. So to me, yeah, you took an early punch, but after that it was all but good things for the Chiefs for the most part.
It's a crazy game, going down 14-0 and just feeling like this game was going to be something that was not going to go the right direction. And Kansas City completely turned it around. They scored 21 answered points. They scored in the second half. They did things that they haven't done consistently throughout the season, and that is exactly why they won the game. They took it to the Raiders most of the game. I hated that they allowed the Raiders to get 2 big plays in the first half. Actually, I think both in the first quarter. The big throw to Devonte Adams, and then the run to the running back. Why can't I think of his name right now?
Jacobs?
Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Jacobs. And you look at those 2 plays, and if you take those off the board, Raiders aren't even in this game, obviously. But, you got to feel like the defense played a lot better than you were expecting them to after going down 14-0 early. They tightened up, and they made it very hard for the Raiders to do anything else.
They certainly did. And I think it comes back to there's always going to be some give and take. But this is what this team needed to be able to survive that initial rush by the opponent, regroup, and get it done. We've been seeing a team, especially in the last several weeks, gets out to a lead, Matt, gets their offense cooking, and then literally takes their foot not only off the gas, but maybe sticks it out the window as they're gliding down the highway in a coast kind of maneuver. This was the exact opposite. And this is the kind of game we needed to see systemically, play call-wise, rhythm of the game, All those things go into having to make sure that you can get your act together in the second half. I think that bodes well for what we're going to see in the coming weeks and months as we get to January.
Well, and for the most part, what the Chiefs avoided today is exactly what Andy Reid has been harping about how they have to avoid. They avoided the self-inflicted wounds. Turnovers today, 0. They only had 4 penalties. The Raiders had 0 penalties. I don't know how that's possible, but the refs were not calling many flags today. The Chiefs probably earned the ones that they got, but still 4 penalties is a huge improvement for where this team has been. Couple of drops here and there, but nothing that ended up costing this team. But that's the thing, is that for the most part, they didn't implode any of their drives with mistakes. And that's what enabled them to get things done today. I mean, and one of the things I'll calculate in there to mistakes is trying to push the ball downfield when you don't have the offense to do that right now. Mahomes only took 1 shot beyond 20 yards to beyond the line of scrimmage all day long. This was classic eat your vegetables offense. And we can see what happens when you take what the defense gives you. This can be the output.
The thing I liked about this the most was you saw Mahomes actually do things that he had been not doing most of the season. He was checking down at times. He was taking the guys that were open. He was taking what the defense was giving him. And that is something that we have been harping on multiple times, trying to say, if he takes what the defense gives him, they're going to be more efficient. They're going to be able to score points. They're going to be able to move the ball. 4 for 9 on 3rd down. And the reason I bring that up right now is it's crazy because last week they had like 23 3rd down attempts. I mean, it's just crazy. And they scored more points this week and only had 9 3rd down attempts. They didn't get to 50% on the night or on the day for 3rd down conversions, but still played well enough to be able to win the game. And, what they were able to do with Rashee Rice, getting him involved in different ways, he showed his ability to break plays and to get big plays down the field, regardless of where he's being targeted. And then his, contested catch ball that he caught on the sideline was phenomenal. Where's that been all year?
I thought Rice had a couple of really good moments, and obviously there was one legitimate drop in there that he would like to have back. That was just another case of trying to move with the ball before you get the football. But, the Chiefs were doing a couple of things to get the ball to him. One, was obviously get it out quickly on the edge and let him use his speed and strength against some defensive backs to get some yards after the catch. And that is, I think, always going to work. But the one I really liked was the touchdown, because that was Mahomes just dumping it off, trying to get the first down, just taking what was there, and Rice just taking it the rest of the way himself. I mean, that's what this guy can do. He can take a 4-yard pass and turn it into 27 yards. I mean, that's what Rice can do. So that's why I want to see more of him. I mean, I think that this is absolutely indicative of the kind of games that you can get from Rice if you just get him involved. You build some packages specifically for him and make sure that he gets involved. This, first 100-yard game, and I think he's going to have more the rest of the season.
And we're going to talk about Rice in depth, how this fits into the offense and where they go from here, coming up in just a moment after a message from our pals at LinkedIn. Now, when you're a small business or you're a small team in this case, we're a small market team here in Kansas City, folks, and you're trying to get the right people for the right fit in the right role, whether it's Rashee Rice being your leading receiver, we'll talk about that coming up in the next break, or whether you need the right candidates for your role in your small business, you got to go to the right source, and that's LinkedIn Jobs. You can get that and get the right professionals hired for your team faster and for free. It makes it super simple. New job opening, you let everyone know by putting it on your profile so that echoes out through the stratosphere in LinkedIn. The vast network comes through with 1 billion professionals that can link into where you're at. It's intuitive, it's quick and easy. They give you tools that can help you sort out those candidates and get the right people in front of your eyes for the right reason. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL and get those right candidates so that you can get the right hire done. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions definitely do apply. And just like any other time, this show is sponsored by BetterHelp. And sometimes you need that help to pick you up, whether you're in a drought because this season is not going the way that you wanted, or whether you have some kind of conundrum like the passing game that you have to figure out. BetterHelp is there to help you be your best and get the most out of yourself. Therapy can be a bright spot for a lot of folks, and we believe that getting connected with a therapist that works for you is part of that key. So whether you're thinking about starting therapy right now, you want to give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's convenient and flexible, and it can be molded to your schedule, fitting your life. It certainly starts very, very simply with a brief questionnaire that lets you get selected and paired with a licensed therapist. You can try that out. You don't get along with that therapist, you want to try something different, you can switch at any time at no charge whatsoever to make sure that you're getting the right support that you need to get your goals met down the line, however you want to get it done. The bright spot is that's what happens with BetterHelp. So go to betterhelp.com/lockedon. You get 10% off of your first month today, right now, tonight. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Now, as we've been talking the last couple of weeks, this is the game that we've been waiting for in terms of coming to fruition, what we've been calling for, that with the drops, the things that we've seen. You saw Watson get targeted 3 times tonight, MVS with a single target. Who led this team in targets? It was Rashee Rice, even more so than Travis Kelce, who had, I think, a great game despite the fact that you were getting a lot of different looks on him. I thought he attacked the zones very well, but it was Rice that reaped the benefit of that. And I think this has become almost a subdued storyline, Matt, because it's what we've been talking about for weeks and weeks and weeks. The staff finally came around and decided to let it out of the bag. This was the Rice that I was expecting, broke 100 yards, obviously scored, and was the number 2 to Travis Kelce. Is that where you saw this going? And can this be repeated week after week after week?
Well, I think it's where you hoped it was going. And, and again, I mean, targets can differ from week to week when it comes to the plays that break down and where the ball goes. What I thought was really encouraging today is that Patrick Mahomes showed a willingness to look towards Rashee Rice instead of, forcing maybe everything to Travis when things break down. I mean, Patrick will talk about going through his progressions and, 1, 2, 3, and going back to 1, 2. But, sometimes it's may go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then 1, 1, 1, whichever Kelce number is. But today you saw him, willing to dump it off to Rashee when he was extending plays, looking to go somewhere else with the football. And that's how the touchdown came about. I mean, it was not a clean play. That was a play, a moment where Mahomes had to buy a little bit of time, finds Rashee Rice, and Rice, takes it the rest of the way himself. That to me is a sign of progression within the offense. Obviously it's a big deal for Rice, because being able to make a play like that definitely shows that he's becoming more comfortable in the offense. He's finding the soft spots, and that, he's finding a way to get open and make himself available to his quarterback. And that's what the Chiefs are having trouble with right now, because for the most part, Kelce's been the only guy who's been able to do that. And, and it was a kind of a quiet, 6 catches for 91 yards for Travis today. Although that throw from Mahomes to Kelce down the left sideline, my goodness, that was a play that only those 2 guys can make. I mean, it's a throw that not many quarterbacks can intentionally make, and certainly not a lot of guys are going to catch. I mean, we've seen that. That was just those 2 guys at their work. But to me, this was a great example of a game plan where, Mahomes was trying to get rid of the football quickly. He wasn't trying to spend too much time in the pocket and trying to wait for something deep to develop. He was taking what the defense was giving him. And as we said, I mean, good things can happen, because Travis Kelce isn't the only guy who can make plays after the catch. Rashee Rice is showing you he's one of those guys too.
Rashee Rice definitely showed that. And what I will say is maybe not use Sky Moore as your lead blocker on a quick out to Rashee Rice. But overall, I think you have to be pretty happy with this. You look at what happened and you look at how this game played out, and you have a good game from Sky Moore from the perspective of 3 catches, over 30 yards receiving. Noah Gray, 3 catches, 3 targets, 30 yards. And one of his catches was phenomenal over the middle of the field. You look at Rashee Rice, and you're absolutely right. He is the guy that they need to be feeding the ball to, but you get complementary things from these other players, which makes it so much easier to be able to continue to feed Rice, to be able to continue to feed Kelce. When you get those other guys that step up in certain moments and just get positive yardage and go the right direction.
It certainly did. And it allowed that because of the situation. Now, this was a game that we came into knowing then they needed to make some offensive changes. Matt, late Saturday, we found out that Kadarius Toney, in addition to Mecole Hardman, which we already knew about, was not going to be able to go. Do we have any more information about where Tony's at? Was this more precautionary? Is there something that we can expect this have to be the plan for the next few weeks with Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce leading the way in the passing game?
Yeah, it was definitely precautionary. Tony came out of practice on Friday with just feeling some discomfort in the hip. Wanted him to sleep on it, see if he felt better on Saturday morning. He didn't. So they're doing some tests right now just to see what it is. Last I had heard, I didn't have a diagnosis yet. We'll see if we hear anything from Andy Reid on Monday as far as that goes. Did get the injuries from Andy after the game today. There were 3, but nothing that he considers too serious.
This show is sponsored. Evidently, I wanted to read something there. I'm glad there's nothing too serious, man.
Donovan Smith came out. You saw that with the stinger, and he came back in. Sky Moore tweaked his knee, and we saw Trey Smith. That was a foot that he ended up injuring there. But Andy Reid doesn't seem to think that they're too concerned. One you obviously watch is Sky with the knee, especially when you got some other guys banged up right now. That could test your depth a little bit. But I'll circle back to this too. I mean, I was a little bit surprised that we didn't see more of Richie James, even though it was his first game back. And I would, of all people, I mean, especially after you saw what happened to Kadarius Toney in Week 1, I would stress, bringing a guy back slowly. But he did look good in special teams. I just want to see what he can do at receiver. I mean, I'm hoping that the guy gets more opportunities.
Yeah, if he gets a chance, I think that he can add something. And you're right, worrying about Sky Moore with an injury. I know a lot of people are down on him, but you start talking about injuries and, McCole Hardman's gone and, we don't know when Tony's going to be back. Richie James is just coming back from an injury. That's, Watson's coming back from an injury, although he's been playing for several weeks. So that's definitely a position that is banged up right now. Need him to stay healthy and just be able to be out there on the field. Because, like I said, he did have a good game, even though it wasn't, 100 yards, 3 catches, 3 for 30 yards. That's a good game for what he has been doing. But you also watched MVS not get targeted until late in the game, and he ended up getting 1 catch for -1 yards. Wide receiver is a position you're going to need to have guys that are going to be productive and be able to run the right routes and be where you want them to be. And it seemed like overall they did that well today. The other big thing, and you mentioned this, Matt, I think early in the first segment, but not turning the ball over. And I can't even think, I'm trying to think, I don't even think that there was a ball that Mahomes threw that was even really questionable. Like, there was nothing that I remember that he threw that was close to being a pick. It was all hitting the wide receivers or not being close. And I will say this, and I know probably some people didn't like it, but I like the reverse flea flicker. It was something new from Kansas City. They threw out something that people are going to have to watch for, and they didn't take a chance with somebody throwing it that wasn't Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, and that's a play that, we've seen some variations on it. We've seen some elements of it. So that's just, another piece of that, not only Andy Reid, but Patrick Mahomes and the whole offense. I mean, they get on that. They'll take something and then they'll add another tweak to it. But to Chris's point, you throw something out there. Well, the next time that Chiefs run that, teams are going to be thinking in their head, it's a flea flicker, and might be something else that's coming at you. So that's the great thing about Andy Reid. Sometimes they'll just throw something out there to put it on tape so that the next time that they run it, they're doing something different off of it that you're not expecting.
I think that should be the plan, and what that wrinkle will look like for the future, we'll have to get to. But can this take them farther forward? We're going to get to what this does as a springboard game coming up next.
I want to tell you about our friends over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the number one site for daily fantasy sports. You need to go check PrizePicks out, and maybe you want to go make some bets on tonight's game. That is going to be a huge game with the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Los Angeles Chargers. Definitely going to be something to watch there. If you want to play along some of PrizePicks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, you can now find the community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries from some of the biggest names in the PrizePicks community each week. PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries can stay even in play if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, the player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. That's prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, Daily fantasy sports made easy.
Now, I would like a guarantee that this game is the basis, the foundation of what we see the rest of the season. I know Andy Reid's never going to give me that, Matt, but this seems to be a formula that we've been trying to approach for some time, and now we're there. Do you feel that this was unique to the Raiders, given that Max Crosby probably wasn't 100% no matter how you slice it? Devonte Adams had a game, but the Chiefs did a very good job. We'll talk about the defense here in a moment. Can they base the rest of their stretch run to the postseason on this game and this concept of feeding the offense through the run game, Rice and Kelsey, and then everything else being statistically on top of that concept?
I mean, with the roster that you had on the field today, I mean, I think this is how you would like to see the offense distributed. I mean, I think you would like to see Travis Kelsey and Rashee Rice getting most of your opportunities, and the other guys being contributors and kicking in when they can. But I'll tell you what, I mean, if you're going to get close to 200 yards from Rashee Rice and Travis Kelsey, I think you would take that most weeks. Isaiah Pacheco ran really hard today. He played well. The numbers don't look great. I mean, just 55 yards, 3.7 yards per carry. I mean, the Raiders were trying to make sure that the Chiefs didn't get the ground game established. I mean, that was, I think that goes back to a little bit of the identity that Antonio Pierce is trying to instill in this defense. And it worked from that standpoint. I mean, it certainly worked early on. It was just eventually, the Chiefs were able to at least do what they wanted to do, which was run the football enough to scare the Raiders to at least not, selling out completely against the pass. And we'll see. I mean, I thought that the Raiders played off a little bit more of Kelsey than he has been of late. So, we'll have to see what happens when teams are legitimately double and triple teaming him every single play. If things look a little bit different, but I mean, like I said, I mean, I'm intrigued to see what happens when Richie James does get some, a little bit more work. Will that help out with a little bit of teams keying in on Kelsey as much? I think teams are going to have to start paying attention to a little bit more of Rashee Rice. So let's see how he responds to that and how it affects him. But the distribution and how you got the ball to some guys, I mean, that to me is exactly how this team is going to be its most effective. This is not an offense that where you can take 5 or 6 shots downfield. You don't have the receiver core for it. And that's not a reflection of Mahomes. He can make the throws, but he legendarily, he can't run the routes too. So, if that's what you've got, you have to take advantage of what you've been given. And you've got a lot of possession receivers. You've got some guys that can work at the line of scrimmage, who can work underneath. If that's what's going to be available and that's what you can get, take it. And I think we saw an evolution of that today. If the Chiefs stick with that, if we see a pass distribution that's close to this, I mean, there's going to be some weeks that the Chiefs go over 300 yards passing. They were close to it today. And, on a good day, when you add in a really productive run game, which today's was, like I said, they got 2 touchdowns. That's efficient, I guess, but this wasn't the best this run game can be. You get back to 300 yards passing and you get back to 120 yards on the ground, suddenly you are the Chiefs that you want the offense that you want to see out there.
Well, and I think it goes even further because you start looking at who they had playing. I mean, you talk about the wide receivers. We haven't really talked about the running backs. We talked about Pacheco a little bit, but Clyde had a good day. He was running well. He was, controlling, making sure he wasn't going to fumble the ball. I mean, that's exactly what you need from him in those positions. And he had a big, 10 or 11-yard gain called back by a penalty on Juwan Taylor for holding. But, otherwise, I thought he looked good when he was running the ball. And that's something that you need, is having another guy that can go out there and do that. Without McKinnon this week, I think that was a big thing for this Chiefs offense, to be able to see that he can play that type of role if needed.
Certainly agree with that. And when you flip it over and you look at what they had to do to make sure that they got a team win, I thought the defense stood up to their usual amount. 17 points, yes. They allowed, 50% third down completion percentage, right, Chris, conversion? I still feel that's a little bit tick higher than
14,
normal.
Third down.
Okay. So a tick higher than normal, but still got that done. If you take out that 63-yarder for Jacobs, you're talking 47 yards on 19 carries for this defense. And I feel like that is certainly one play that they'd love to have back, but that's a foundational performance there. The guy that I think probably took the brunt of everything that the Raiders had to throw at him was L'Jarius Sneed. We saw targets go to Devonte Adams consistently, as we had predicted. He ended up 5 catches on 7 targets for a little bit over a 10-yard average per catch at 73 yards. I still see that as a victory for L'Jarius Sneed in this defense, Steve Spagnuolo. Matt, how do you take it away?
Yeah, I mean, was it the L'Jarius Sneed performances that we've been it's kind of expected the way he's just played of late? No, but, considering the way Devonte Adams has been playing, considering he is Devonte freaking Adams, yeah, I mean, this is still, if you're keeping him out of the end zone, you're holding him down to 10 yards a catch, 73 yards. I mean, yeah, that's a good performance. And that, because this is without a doubt, probably the toughest, challenge that L'Jarius Sneed's going to face the rest of the season. I mean, there'll be some other good guys, he's got Stephon Diggs coming up too, but Devonte Adams is one of, if not the best. So having that kind of performance, no, I mean, that's okay. I mean, even Superman, has bad days, and L'Jarius Sneed has been Superman this season. So no, that's okay. I mean, you're right. I mean, that they definitely want back that 63-yard from Jacobs, because you take that back, and that was just, some fundamentals. I mean, they over pursued. There was one gap, and, I would say if you had switched and Brian Cook was in, Mike Edwards' position, Brian Cook probably gets Josh Jacobs on the ground. That's just, the kind of player he is. So that's just maybe the one switch, that would have stopped it. But you take that one play out. Otherwise, yeah, it's a 31-10 ball game. You're feeling much differently about this defense. I mean, even as it is, these teams both averaged 6.2 yards a play. They both ran 58 plays. I mean, it was almost dead even across a lot of statistical categories. But in the end, Chiefs won because they were just more consistent. And that's one of the things, that champions are. I mean, they're more consistent. The Raiders weren't. They got all of their yards in bunches, and it was opportunistic for them, but, they weren't able to extend that throughout the entire game, whereas the Chiefs were able to finally be productive throughout the first and the second half for a change. And Andy Reid talked about it, and I agree. I mean, I thought it was very important for this team to be able to go out in the second half and establish their presence, because the Raiders, as well as they've been playing, they're still not a very good team. And they give up more points to this offense, especially with a young quarterback, inexperienced quarterback. And, they made him look better than they should have. He played really well. He got probably some 50-50 balls that went his way more often than not. But this team needed a strong second half, and they got it on both sides.
Well, and the thing that really sticks out to me in this game is, I believe, I'd have to go back and look at every single play, but I believe Devonte Adams was targeted 7 times in the first half with 5 catches. I don't think he got it. He may have got a target, in the second half. I don't think he got a catch in the second half. And that goes back to talking about L'Jarius Sneed and the job he was able to do. Yeah, he gave up some plays early. Yeah, he gave up some yardage, but he was able to come back and he was able to shut him down for the most part in the second half. And that's all you can really ask for a guy that's going up against their best weapon. And then you look at, a guy like Jacoby Myers, who I thought played a really good game, and they had a great game plan to get him open and get him the ball. And I think that was something the Chiefs had to adjust to. But, you talk about the yardage being about the same for the Chiefs and the Raiders. The big difference is the Raiders got a lot of theirs in the first half and then just couldn't do much in the second. And that became a huge deal today. And Kansas City just not shooting themselves in the foot with, multiple drops and turnovers really helped them, take advantage of the Raiders today.
And to your point, yeah, Devonte Adams did not have any targets in the second half. Snead absolutely took him away.
Okay.
And Josh Jacobs had 8 carries for 16 yards in the second half. That is a whale of an adjustment that defensively this team made at halftime.
They needed it. And that's the execution that we're used to, and we're hoping to see through this stretch run. That brings us today's game balls go to the players that made this possible. Matt, who gets your game ball?
Yeah, this was a hard decision because I think there was a handful of guys that all made cases. And at the same time, everybody had some warts. I mean, nobody was really perfect today, but give props where they are. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, almost 300 yards, doesn't turn the football over, a couple of touchdown passes, very efficient, completed 75% of his passes. And as I gave him credit for earlier, he took what was there today. And that's what this team has got to do. I mean, discipline offensively when you've got a young and inexperienced wide receiver group that you're trying to nurture and you're trying to build. I get wanting to take some deep shots and have some home runs and feeling pretty good. Well, they should feel really good about today, because today they took what the defense gave them. They proved that they can be efficient. They proved they can be productive in the second half. And that was all on Mahomes. Mahomes was the one that made it work today.
Ryan, who's getting yours?
For me, it's the guy who probably is going to get a little bit of ire, to tell you the truth, because he didn't quite play up to what our expectation is. But if there's one guy on the Raiders offense that could have hurt you, it's Devonte Adams. L'Jarius Sneed was effective, particularly in the second half, but really, honestly, all game in limiting what that factor is. They didn't have to completely bracket him every single snap. They allowed L'Jarius to play and allowed the defense to breathe and attack in other ways. And I thought that went a long way towards helping the entire effort and get a team win. L'Jarius Sneed gets my game ball.
I thought about Pacheco in this one, but I have to give it to Rashee Rice. And Pacheco probably deserves it, maybe because of 2 touchdowns. The other stats really weren't there. But for me, it's Rashee Rice showing that he can be somebody that the Chiefs rely on, and that's really why he gets my game ball. His touchdown run was great. He broke some tackles and was able to get in the end zone. That was fantastic. But just being able to get over 100 yards, being able to produce as a wide receiver, and showing that he can be a target that Mahomes trusts and continue to be a cog that moves this offense going forward, I think that's why he deserves a game ball in this one.
I like it. We'd love to know who you think deserves the game ball. Leave your comments down below. Make sure you like, sub, and hit the bell here. Go over to Chiefs Digest here on YouTube and make sure that you subscribe there, as well as checking out ChiefsDigest.com, where you can get all of Matt's work. He's diligently working away on 2 things in 2 ears right now, making sure that he can get things done. Matt, thanks for your time, bud.
Always appreciate it, Ryan. Take care. You and Chris, everybody out there, take care.
Make sure that you check out the rest of the Locked On, maybe the Raiders show. Start looking at the Packers. Going to be a special show for you next week. I might even have some extra content for you pre-game against the Packers. We'll tell you more about that coming up in the week. Matt will be back with us on Wednesday. We'll have Behind Enemy Lines, the whole 9 yards. Thanks for spending your evening with us. Enjoy this win. We'll talk to you tomorrow.